Welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. Okay, so I had troubles with this Hyundai iLoad H1 2012 4D BC motor. I had troubles with it not starting, and that was only when it was hot. So it was a restart, a hot restart, and it would only restart when this fuse, that relay with the purple. Hang on, let me get a pointer. Okay, I got my pointer now. Okay, so this relay right here, this one here, you can see it, that one, it would only restart when that one had actually gone to sleep. That relay right there, the second one, not the first one, the second one. So that's the main relay. So that's controlled by the ECU, and basically what was happening was when the car was hot and you turn it off, the car wouldn't restart until that relay actually went click and turned off. Now that sometimes can take about 30 seconds to 2 minutes, who knows, but it can take about that time. So if you've stalled at a traffic light, you're still stuck there waiting for that time for that relay to reset before you can restart. Now on a normal car, and it took me a long time to work this out, when you turn your ignition switch, it actually goes tick tick and quickly resets it, allowing it to restart. With this vehicle being 13 years old, it won't let us do that. It just started getting worse and worse. So there's obviously some break in some contact somewhere. So I've gone to great lengths to actually find it and to find a workaround from it. Alright, so let's go in and I'll show you what I've had to do. Alright, so there's the workaround. I'll just put my torch there. Okay, here is the workaround. You push the big button on. My hand just can't do it. Alright, I'm going to have to use the old-fashioned way. And you flick it up and drop it down. That quick. That's enough to reset it. So basically what's happening is the car's computer is keeping that fuse active, and whatever the signal is or wherever it's coming from, and I've traced a lot to try and find it, I couldn't actually find it. One person said they replaced the ECU and they fixed it. No, didn't fix it for me. I replaced the ECU. I got the ECU reflashed for a couple of other things. We did that a couple of times, and we tried it with hot start, that didn't work, and we tried it a couple of different ways, didn't work, so it just cost me a lot of money. New ECU, this and that. This $5 switch is what fixed, well basically it's a workaround. So it could actually be at the back of the ignition switch. I did pull that apart, it looked all perfect, then I bought another one, and basically the other one didn't fit. So I ended up putting the original one back on, but it could have actually been caused by the switch, the plastic switch which is on the back of the ignition. But after doing the ECU, all the sensors, tracing all the wiring and all the rest, it was just going too far for what it was. So now what happens is that when you actually start the car, you drive, if you turn it off or you stall it, all you have to do is flick this up, go like that, and you can restart the car. That's all you got to do. So to wire that in, I'll show you how I wired it in, or I'll tell you how I wired it in, so if anyone else has the same issue on their car, this is a simpler solution. Replacing the ECU and all that sort of stuff, I really didn't need to do it. The ECU cost me $500. Programming it cost me, I think I spent another $600 on programming it, and we weren't able to kind of solve or fix that problem. So let's move on to how this switch works. So there's a cable going under the dash, under there, and then popping out through the flywheel. It's a twin sheath cable, which means it's got an inner plastic and then an outer plastic going around it. So it's like double insulated, and that's the cable right there. And it hooks onto this relay here. Now this relay is a 5-pin relay, so when it has a negative and a positive, so when negative and positive is there, the relay turns on, and then it supplies power from the vertical pin to the other horizontal, the two horizontal pins at the same time. So this was a negative trigger activating this relay. So what I did was I basically cut the negative wire, spliced in my switch, and my switch, when it's in the closed position like you just saw it, is always connected. And then when I flick the switch, it disconnects this negative, and then allows it to reset. Because the problem is when the car's turned off, it's always got power to it, keeping it active. So I had to drop the negative, cut into the negative, and the switch cuts the negative, allowing the relay to basically reset. And that quick little reset is enough to do it. So how did we get the cable in? I'll see if I can show you that. Right, so that box right there, you take that off. There's a screw down there and a screw up here. You take that off and then you feed it through the rubber. Then you go through the flywheel. Then you go under through your dash, and then you come out over here. All right, and then you tape it up under here, and you keep all the wiring out of the way, and then you put it here. Then the multimeter, you test your 2 terminals, which are always connected in this position. So there's no way of knocking this when you're driving, you see? It's not going to turn on. The only way to turn this on is by lifting it and going like that. That now has cut the negative to that main relay, and then when you flick it back down, it's got its negative again, and the car's ready to start. So that took a lot of work to figure that out, what was stopping it from starting, and it was that relay being kept on, most likely because the computer, which lives down here, is receiving data. It's receiving data from somewhere or something. When I checked on my other car, when you turn on the ignition, it actually quickly resets that relay. And that relay on this model doesn't quickly reset, meaning that there's some sort of drop in the circuit to disconnect it and reconnect it to allow it to restart, but it's not happening. And when I ordered the replacement switch for this, I mean, I checked the ignition, I checked the switch, everything looked good. Then I ordered another switch, and then it didn't fit, and I thought I've just given up. I'm going for a way that I know is definitely going to work. The other switch I bought too off eBay, the plastic one that goes behind the ignition lock, was so crappy I didn't even want to put it on. It just looked like it would fall apart. So I went for this one and kept the OEM one on the back of this one, and then that seems to work. So this should last and should work. The actual ECU down here, I had it remapped for another couple of reasons, which I won't say. One of which was just to turn something off that basically gives a lot of people a lot of problems. So I've turned that off, and that will just, you know, make it run a little bit longer, harder and stronger, and chew up more petrol. But you know, it's just the way it is. It's better than all the muck around. So that was my fix, just putting this rocker switch in. You can't knock it when you're driving. You actually physically have to lift it, push it. This was like a $10 switch. The wiring cost me virtually nothing, a little bit of labor. Had I have done this from the start, I would have saved myself the trouble of pulling the ignition out, pulling the switch down and dismantling the switch, pulling the ECU out, taking that to the guy 3 to 4 times to reflash, you know, getting the files off the internet, trying to see if it was a hard flash, not flash. I pulled this box out probably about 3 times. I checked all the fuses. I checked all the fuses inside the car as well. I checked all the fuses here. I checked all the relays. I even checked the wiring, so I pulled that whole fuse box out. Then I went over the front of the car where it's been dismantled, took the front end off and checked all my negatives and all that sort of stuff. Then went over to this side and then checked all my fuses in here. They're all good. Then I went through and I replaced all the sensors on the car. So we've got the crank sensor underneath. We've got the camshaft sensor, which is there, I think it is. And then we replaced the oxygen sensor, which lives in here. I think it's here, yep. And then we replaced the diesel temperature sensor, which lives down there. And then there was the double check the diesel regulator, which lives down there. And then we had this sensor on here. I checked that, didn't replace that. And then we had a few more sensors. I'm just forgetting because I want to forget. I want to be away from this. Anyway, so that's basically where we are. And also I replaced one injector. See? One injector. So that's a brand new injector. It seems to make a difference what you have on number 1 as an injector. So if that helps anybody, leave down in the comments. But yeah, hard start. I've introduced a switch on the negative of this main relay. And I'll just show you what the main relay diagram is so that you don't go chopping up your electricals. Right, so we are the one with the engine and the book. Can you see? Engine and the book. This torch is terrible. My lighting techniques are terrible. Not the one with the round circle with an arrow, the one with the book and the engine. That is the main relay. So anyway, finally got there in the end. I would have liked to have kept everything OEM and exactly the way they did it, but I'm forever going to be replacing parts to do it. And the ignition switch was the next part I was going to actually replace, but you know, once you start doing that, then if that's not it, what do I do after that? Do I replace the wiring harness, you know, the whole engine front end wiring harness? And if that's not it, what do we do then? Do we replace the internal wiring harness? So it's getting out of control for such a small little problem. So that was the fix. I finally got there in the end. Leave your comments down below. Thanks for watching.